This commuter bus breaks all the rules, and it's better because of it. There is one mode of transit that, despite being an important part of the transit system in most major American cities, goes woefully unnoticed here on YouTube, and that is the commuter bus. These commuter services are buses that connect the far-flung outer suburbs with office buildings in the downtown area of a city. Generally, they run into the city in the morning and out of the city in the afternoon. Oftentimes, they'll use motor coaches, offering higher levels of comfort for the longer journeys. Let's take a look at Washington, D.C., the city I'm currently living in. There are many different agencies that provide commuter bus services. WMATA's Metrobus has some rush hour only routes that take the highways to reach some of the nearer suburbs in Maryland or Virginia. On the Virginia side of things, Loudoun County Transit runs coaches to and from Loudoun County, Fairfax Connector provides access to Fairfax County, and Omniride has a number of services running to Prince William County. On the Maryland side, all commuter bus service is offered by the Maryland Transit Administration, the fake MTA. But while the Virginia buses carry their own agency's liveries, the Maryland coaches are branded with the logos of private companies like Academy, Keller, Martz, or Coach USA. Fake MTA pays these private companies to run commuter bus services, and the companies will apparently just use any of their own vehicles that are available at a given time, which sometimes leads to funny situations, like that one time that I saw a bus in Virginia Breeze livery running on a Maryland state-sponsored route. So how do these work? Well, let's say that you work in the White House, but your spouse runs a crab shop. So you live in the lovely town of North Beach, Maryland. You've just had a beautiful Sunday strolling down the boardwalk, checking out some antique shops, and of course, catching dinner. But now it's Monday morning. So rather than drive all the way into DC, you park your car near the bus stop at 6 in the morning and you hop on MTA route 820. You relax in your seat, and an hour or so later, you're dropped off just a few blocks from your office. In the afternoon, the bus will take you back to North Beach. And that's pretty much how all of these MTA commuter routes operate. In fact, that's probably why they're not featured on transit YouTube as much. In my case, for example, I live in a very dense part of Washington, D.C., and these buses just don't really fit my schedule that well. One time, Lindsay and I wanted to take transit to Annapolis, so we took an MTA commuter bus in the afternoon. But of course, there was no bus to get back to D.C., so we eventually had to take a bus to the Baltimore Light Rail, take that to Baltimore Airport, and then take Amtrak back home. Like I said, pretty much all of these MTA commuter routes operate like this, but there is one exception, Route 201. We're going to ride the 201 today, but to do so, we're going to have to make our way to the very northwestern end of the Metro Red Line. Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I'm in Rockville, Maryland, close to the end of the red line. Now let's say that I hypothetically have a big, hypothetical suitcase with me. Okay? You can imagine it, right? Because I am hypothetically going to catch a flight out of Baltimore Washington International Airport, BWI. How do I get there by transit? Well, one option would be to take the red line all the way to Union Station and then transfer to a MARC train. But do I really want to do that when I'm all the way here in Rockville? There has to be another way. Let's hop on a red line train to Shady Grove and I'll show you the other way to get to BWI. If it seems counterintuitive that we're traveling in the opposite direction from Baltimore, don't worry. At Shady Grove, we will be transferring to bus route 201. The 201 is a coach bus service provided by the Maryland Transit Administration. It runs from Gaithersburg in Montgomery County to BWI Airport, and some services continue on to Baltimore's Greyhound station. The buses make a few intermediate stops, including at Shady Grove Metro Station, which is where we're arriving now. So Shady Grove is the northwestern terminus of the Red Line, and it is the farthest station away from downtown Washington, D.C., at least on the Maryland side of the system. One interesting feature that this station has, it has these fare gates that act as an exit, but not as an entrance. You can't enter the platform here. Like many suburban metro stations, there are bus bays on both sides, but we're going to have to go to the bus bays on the east side of the station. So once we follow the signs to the buses, we'll end up at this circle type area with these giant brutalist garages on both sides. While we're waiting for the bus, let's check out one of these garages, since I normally wouldn't. It's a lot of concrete, but there are some interesting things. There's this garage room that I tried to see if you could go inside, but you can't. I don't know what this was, some sort of canteen or lounge. If somebody knows, let me know in the comments. Similarly, outside, there is this weird bench-looking thing, and I once again am not entirely sure what it could have been. All right, that is more than enough talking about a parking garage. We're here to ride a bus, so let's talk about MTA Commuter Bus 201. We're just waiting for the bus to show up. Oh, there it is. Is that ours? No, it looks like it's the bus headed to Gaithersburg, the opposite direction. The next bus to show up is a little shuttle that takes employees to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or the NIST, and finally after that, our bus shows up. As you can see, it has a Coach USA livery. The 201 is operated by Dillon's Bus Service, which is a subsidiary of Coach USA. Let's get on board. A fare for this trip costs $6, and you can pay it either in cash or by downloading the CharmPass app, which is what we did. Now, before I talk about the route itself, let's quickly take a look at the comfort that this bus provides. So it is a coach bus, so it's nicer than a city bus. Every seat has a footrest, power sockets, and USB sockets. There are reading lights, but I tried them out and they weren't working. And then the seats themselves don't really have any recline, but they are padded pretty well, so it's good for a journey of about an hour like this one. So what is so special about this Route 201 that I'm featuring it in this video? Well, the 201 is a commuter bus service that isn't really a commuter service. It runs between Gaithersburg and BWI Airport, with intermediate stops at the NIST, Shady Grove Metro, Georgia Avenue, Burtonsville, Dorsey MARC Station, and the Arundel Mills Mall. So right off the bat, you see that it's not really getting people from suburbs into the city center, but it's actually connecting different areas across the state. And that is why it uses Maryland State Route 200, a highway that is also known as the Inter-County Connector. But what makes this bus truly special is the fact that it doesn't just run in the morning or the afternoon. Service begins at 4 in the morning and runs till late at night, running at regular intervals throughout the day. Really, the only reason it's considered a commuter route is because it's the commuter agency that runs them and because it uses similar buses to the other commuter routes. But this is pretty much just a long-distance transit bus route. It is very nice to be able to go to Baltimore or Baltimore Airport without first having to go into Washington, D.C. if you're coming from Montgomery County. So while we just took a look at the map of Route 201, the line does have several schedule inconsistencies to take note of. In reality, service is not as straightforward as just a straight line from Gaithersburg to BWI. Let me explain. Since we're on a weekday service headed eastbound, let's look at weekday eastbound service first, which is the most complicated schedule in my opinion. There are 11 eastbound departures on weekdays, and initially there's nothing really to report. All buses stop at the National Institute for Standards and Technology, Shady Grove Metro, Georgia Avenue, and Burtonsville. But after Burtonsville is where things get complicated. The first 2 buses of the morning immediately go to the BWI Amtrak station, then they serve the airport on the lower level, then they go back to the Arundel Mills Mall, and then bus number 1, the first bus of the day, continues to the Greyhound station. Starting with bus number 3, we get back into the regular order of serving BWI Airport first, this time on the upper level, then the rail station, and then some services continue to the Greyhound station. Starting with bus number 7, which departs Gaithersburg at 2 p.m., the buses begin to stop at Dorsey as well. And once again, only about half of the services continue to Baltimore Greyhound station. Now let's take a look at the westbound service. First of all, what I find interesting is that there are actually 13 departures westbound, so more than there are eastbound on weekdays. There's no complicated BWI swap like there is going eastbound. All buses just begin at the Amtrak station, then serve the lower level of the airport, the mall, and then bus number 12 and 13 serve Dorsey, while all the other buses do not, except for late at night when bus number 25 once again makes a stop at Dorsey. The weekends are much more straightforward. There are 12 trips, both eastbound and westbound. They do not stop at the National Institute for Standards and Technology or at Dorsey, but they make all other stops. And once again, only a few services actually continue to the Greyhound station. Same for westbound service. Now, the weekend schedule is also in effect on holidays, and the 201 actually runs on all holidays, even Thanksgiving and Christmas. So it truly is a bus service that operates 365 days a year. Now, I understand that where the bus stops is controlled by a number of factors, including demand, but like I've said in previous videos, I'm just really into consistency, and I think that having a very clear schedule and very consistent stopping patterns will ultimately make it the easiest transit system to use, especially for people who aren't used to taking the bus. Anyways, let's check out the toilet. Of all the coach bus toilets I've been on, this one definitely wasn't the most disgusting, but I'm sure you'll understand why I was still in a hurry to get back to my seat. Now, because this is a weekday afternoon service, we did stop at Dorsey, where you can transfer to the MARC Camden line, and then our next stop is the Arundel Mills Mall, and you'll know you're there when you see the Medieval Times restaurant. Then we drive through the business district surrounding Baltimore Washington International Airport. We briefly drive across Amtrak Way, which is the road that leads to the rail station, and one of my favorite street names in America. But we don't go there first. First, this bus will stop at the airport terminal itself, and it will make several stops so you can get off at the correct airline, much like the existing airport shuttles do. Thank you so much. Have a great day. So we've made it to BWI, or should I say Baltimore Washington Thurgood Marshall International Airport, whichever you prefer. So there's a freedom shrine here right next to a sign that tells me what I can and can't do. America. Now the 201 stops at a few different spots along the terminal, so you never have to walk very far. Now, remember that hypothetical suitcase that I had with me? Well, guess what? It's hypothetical. It doesn't actually exist. I'm not flying today, but what we can do here at the airport is take the Baltimore light rail.
Next station, BWI Business District.
So you can take a shuttle from the airport to the rail station, or we could have just stayed on the 201, but the friend I was with had heard that the walking trails around BWI were pretty nice, so we decided to walk from BWI Business District station on the light rail to the Amtrak and MARC station at BWI. And I have to admit, the trails were pretty nice. And then, of course, there's the BWI rail station, which is served by Amtrak and MARC. The 201 stops here. Like I said earlier, about half the services continue on to the Baltimore Greyhound station, but we're going to catch an Amtrak back to Washington, D.C. because it's super cheap, actually. The BWI rail station has a small waiting room that has MARC ticket machines, an Amtrak ticket counter, and a small convenience store that sells snacks and Maryland souvenirs. Of course. We're getting on an Amtrak Northeast Regional back to Washington, D.C. Now, I found that even if you book just a few minutes in advance, these tickets can still be as low as $12 to $15, $5 to $8 if you're traveling in the evening, which is cheaper than MARC tickets. This is why you do the coach bus first and Amtrak last, because I know which one I'd rather be on. Alright, so that was the 201. Ever since I've seen it on the map, I've wanted to try it out, and it was fun. I think it's definitely a strength that it runs both directions all day. I wish that more of the MTA commuter bus routes would do that. Another strength, I think, is that it doesn't just go into a downtown, it goes across several counties, which I think is great. I do wish that even the 201 would be more frequent because, once every 2 hours, I think it's not that reliable. And of course, I would prefer a timetable that's more consistent with each departure. So just every bus that makes the same stops in the same order. Thank you so much for watching today. Subscribe to Trains Are Awesome for more great content like this. We'll see you next time.